NumPy, and we've also talked about pandas. We talked about matplotlib, Seaborn, and Plotly. These are the various libraries that we can use for analysis and for visualization, depending on what we want to achieve with Python. So today we would just be brushing through all of what we've done so far, and then be able to what's it called, finish up what we've learned. So yesterday we began to show ourselves how we can leverage the different visualization tools that we have, some of which are inside pandas, and we've explained that pandas is a library built on NumPy, and pandas has a lot of how do I call it, a lot of functions inside it that we can leverage for the different aspects of analysis that we want to do, from grouping to sort by. And yesterday I said we'd show ourselves how to use concatenation, which is a function of joining two tables together. And but unfortunately we couldn't do that yesterday, so we'll use the opportunity to do that today, so we can see some of the functionalities that we can use. And so I would run my first line to the first cell. So this first cell is basically, as we know, is importing all of the libraries that we have written inside, and it does that by importing everything one after the other. If there is any of them that has an issue, it's going to stop in between based on the one that has issue. If there is no issue, it's just going to run completely. All right, so our first cell has run. So this cell here, as we know, is the markdown cell. You can see it is not in the code form; it is in markdown, which basically we've also said told ourselves that we can use for documentation. So it makes it easier for us to record all of the things.
Sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry. My Plotly Express is not it's not running. Like it's saying no module named Plotly.
So if you go back to your Anaconda prompts and you check your pip lists, you should see Plotly there. If Plotly is not there, you should do pip install Plotly.
Okay, sir.
All right. So now that we've imported all of the models and libraries that we are using, the next thing we want to do is we want to read the file that we want to work with. And we've talked about the different aspects of reading files that we can have, so that we can leverage them. So we can have read CSV, read Excel, read Fedora, read HTML, read JSON, and we can also connect to SQL by reading SQL, SPSS, and all of that. So these are all of the connections that we can basically connect to. So we can also read BigQuery. So this read GBQ that we have is read Google BigQuery. So it means that you can literally connect your Python to a cloud server. So which is one of the things that we can also use in connecting what's it called, in connecting databases and servers that we want to work with. So here we have a CSV file that we are working with, and we basically run this, and yes, we have the first 5 rows. And the reason why we have the first 5 rows is because we've stated here that we want just the head. So let's not forget that the head function is used to select the top listing in terms of what we want to use, and by default it is in 5. We can also change the number depending on what we want to 10 and any number. So this basically we can go through the data that we have pulled in and what is needed and what is not needed. So we also told ourselves that we have the shape function, which basically tells us the shape in which the data we have pulled in is in. This tells us by default the number of rows and the number of columns. So we have 2,823 rows and 25 columns. And we also talked about the info, which basically tells us information about the table that we have, like the data that we have pulled in, and it gives us the number of rows first, which is the number of entries, telling us the indexing that we have used from 0 to 2822. Then it tells us the number of columns that we have and what each of the columns are, their names. If there are no records in that column, it tells us the number of non-null records so that we are able to see or calculate basically the number of null records ourselves. And then we also see the data type that the data has been pulled in. We talked about us manually going through each of these columns, because sometimes what you have in the information is not completely as expected with what you would have inside your data. So for instance, we talked about the order dates coming in as an object, but in fact it is a date column. And this is something that we have to pay attention to. So then the next thing we talked about is cleaning our data. And then we began our cleaning. So let me insert above and just come here and say before. So we talked about cleaning our data, and in cleaning our data, what we are basically doing is we are making sure that we remove the data that are not needed. This is basically called data redundancy, like the redundant data. And so now we are basically cleaning it up to make it much more better. And the columns that we don't need, we also remove them so that we have a, how do I call it, a data that is not so heavy, consuming our space unnecessarily. It's not about data being heavy, but it's about us having data that we actually need for the tasks that we want to perform. So we removed the address line 2, state, and postal code here because we saw that we do not need them. Then also, yeah, another reason why we removed them was because they had null values. If you look at the postal code, the states, and the address line too, they had null values. Although territory had null value also, but yes, we came here and then we fixed up the null values for territory by replacing it with NAM, which was because after our investigation, the investigation we did in our previous class, so that we don't kind of be like, where is the investigation coming from? Yeah. So after our investigation here, we were able to see that the states that had, the countries that had null values for their, what's it called? For their territories were basically countries in the northern, in the North American region, or territory as we may call it. So that was why.
Yeah.
So what we did was
Yeah.
we replaced the
Pass.
value.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, I'm trying to do the this thing that I want to remove that address line too. the way you did it on the previous class, and then it's not bringing it out. I think when I watched the video, you pressed something, but you didn't later say what you pressed. But it's not bringing the data outside, number one, and it's not even removing that address line 2 on it.
Yes, it's not removing it because you did not use inline.
Inline.
So when you put inline, it's going to permanently remove the colons that you've stated from the data that you have. But if you do not put inline in place as true, it is just going to in what it will show you, it will remove it. But when you go back to your primary data, it's not going to be removed in it. So you need to state which.
Yes, I stated that in place is equal to true.
Okay, so
Yes.
what is now
What
the
is saying is address line 2 not found in axis.
yes,
The TF.
because address line 2 has been removed. So let me show you. Let me show you something. So when I run this now, you see in cell 4 that I have here, you can see now that I have 22 columns, right?
Yes.
Yes. And it means that I've removed these 3 columns because we had 25 columns primarily, but now we have 22 columns, right? Now if I should run this again, if I should run this cell 4 again, if I run it again, it is going to tell me that what's it called? It's going to tell me that the colon address line 2 states and postal code are not in the table, so it's not going to see. So it's going to give me an error message basically. So let me show you so that you are able to understand. So when I run this now, it's going to pass me an error. Now you see it passes an error because what it says that address line 2 states and postal code not found in axis. That's because address line 2 states and postal code have actually been removed from the data. Do you get it?
Okay.
It has been removed. That is why you cannot remove it again. It's because those columns do not exist anymore. Are we together?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
What
it.
if I want to now bring down the other column, the previous column, whereby I will have removed the address line 2, but I want to see the other columns?
You just call your sales data and you would see the other columns. So let me do sales data.add. So you'll be able to see the other columns now because you have, as you can see, now you have 22 columns because it has removed those 3 columns.
Okay. And also, my second question is, you said for that, what's it called? For the CSV file, we have to use read underscore CSV file. But for Excel 2, you're saying read underscore Excel. I tried to move in an Excel file inside it, and then it's not working.
So for Excel, the extension for Excel file is pd.read Excel, right? And then you call
Yes.
your Excel file name. So let's say your Excel file name is, what's your Excel file name?
History, hotel history.
Hotel history, right? So you have hotel history, and then when you are done writing your hotel history, right, you are going to say .xlsx
Yes.
because .csv, as you can see, we have the extension of the file that we are bringing in for CSV. We have it with it .csv. Same thing for
Yes.
Excel. You have to state the extension dot, so it knows that the file that you are bringing in is a .excel file. Let me show us something so you're able to understand better. You see, we have this sales data.csv here, right? This is a CSV
Yes.
file. All right, so let's assume that I have this file as an Excel file, now. So I have this, so I'm going to call this, I'm going to say rename this, and I want to call it .xlsx. So when I run this, okay, Sorry, this is not what I want to do. I want to change the format of the data I have. So sorry, no. So I want to. So let me call this guy Excel. Right. So I want to change the format of the file so that we understand it better. No, where's this guy? Still. So let me just. Let me open it and change it here. So when I change this file to, let's say, an Excel file, right?
Hello,
it
sir.
is.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
I think the file is already an Excel file.
No, it's a CSV
And
file. It's just.
It's a CSV file.
Yes, CSV file actually, not Excel. So yeah. So if you see here, it
Because the way
says
I'm looking at
Microsoft
it,
Excel. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see it says comma separate, so it's a CSV file. So for me to change it to Excel, I just come to save as on my Excel. I have to come inside there, and inside my file, inside my folder, I want to change. So I come here, save as Excel. La 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 la. Where is this guy? Microsoft Excel workbook. I can't see. Okay, let me just use Excel workbook here. So I have, so I'm going to call this sales data also. But let me just, yeah, I'm going to call this sales data so you can see that they are the same file basically, same file name, just different. So I have two files, right? You can see two files. One is a comma separated. Let me show us better. So we can see one is comma separated, one is Excel, right? Now this Excel worksheet. So this is CSV, this is Excel. Now when I come to my Jupyter notebook here and I want to read sales data, right? The one that is Excel, I'm going to say read Excel sales data dot xlsx, and then I'm going to run this. So when I run it, it should take a while and it should give me my results. Okay, so another error. What's the error? It says, okay, I'm using version 3.09, but it requires, for me to use this, it requires me to use version 3.010. So, but basically, what you're just going to just do is just read it using XLXS, and that should solve the problem. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, you're welcome. So let's continue. So okay, let me run this guy again so that I have my. Okay, so we have, seen that we've removed it here now. Now we have now we want this to change the column name, the territories that were null values before, the territories that were null here, we now have them to be Northern America now. So the next thing we saw was that we need to change our order date, because our order date here is coming in as an object from what we saw in our info, right? We saw that order date is coming in as an object. Seeing it as just a combination of strings and a combination of strings, which is just numbers and alphabets. but we actually need the colon to be a date so that it's easier for us to perform the analysis we need to do on that date. So how do we do that? So we use PD, which is pandas function of to date time. So the to date time functionality, what it does is it converts a colon or colons, depending on what we want to do, to date time. So yeah, I need to also say that we can actually change multiple colons at the same time. So let's assume that we have two colons that are of object and we want to convert the two colons to what's it called, to date time. All we just have to do is make sure that our what's it called, our square brackets is in form of a what's it called, a multi-dimensional array, and then we can just list our column names inside. So whatever our column names are, we just put them inside, and then this would solve our problem. So it does not, so this is, I'm saying this so that we are able to use effectively our codes, because it's time wasting if we are having two codes that are doing the same thing and you are running them one after the other, when you could just literally run them at the same time. So we need to take note of this also. So let's run this. So when we run this now, we see that our date time has now changed. And so if we come to info, we can see now that our date time has changed to, our order date column has changed to date time. So then we talked about creating backups yesterday, especially when we are working with big data and real life data that we are manipulating. Manipulating in terms of carrying out transformation or cleaning and all of that. This is to make sure that we can easily fall back to our backups whenever anything happens to our server. And we showed ourselves yesterday how we can move, what's it called, data between servers using the example of folders that we are working with. So this is just to call our attention to creating or creating backups basically. So we then, okay, yeah, so this was how we showed ourselves how to move it within our folder and creating backup in another folder basically. So the next thing we did was we talked about removing unnecessary columns, which I think I've also talked about previously. The columns that we don't need, we make sure we remove them. This makes it very much easier for us to have only data that we need, only the important data. So, and we also, yes, because of our data, we created what's it called, a month year colon by creating a new colon from within our, what's it called, our, from within our order date column. And we also explained to us how we can do this, especially when we have columns that also speak to what we want to do. For instance, we already have the month ID and the year ID. How can we join the two columns together in one table? So I think we talked about it. Okay. Oh, okay. So I only showed us how we can create a new column using the to period function. So let's see. So here now we see that we have a new column called months here, which is an extraction of what we add from our order date. So it basically gives us the month and the year aspect of our date, and then it removes the day that is there. This makes it easier for us to perform monthly analysis basically on our data. And okay, we talked about, yeah, so I mentioned something that I feel we should go to. We talked about, what's it called? Okay, yeah, I mentioned handling two, what's it called, two columns. So yes, so let me show us what that does. So let's say um we have our month ID. We have our month ID. So when we run this, we have each of these columns, right? Now, our month ID is an integer, right? If we say, for instance, plus let's say sales, the year ID. So when we run this, it is going to perform an arithmetic operation of adding each of these months. So it says 2 plus 308, and then it gives us this, right? Now, but this is not actually what we want. What we want is, we want to have 203 and our month, like let's say 2 or 5 or 10, depending. How are we going to do this and make sure that what we have is a month here in its form? So what we are supposed to do is, we are supposed to first of all change the data type of these columns, because these columns are coming in as integers, right? And for us to be able to do that, we must make sure that our data is not coming as integer. So what we need to do is, we use a function called the dot as type function. So this dot as type, what it does is, it's going to change the data type of our function from whatever function that and whatever format we have to the new format that we've stated. So our previous data type is an integer. So we want to change it to a string. So when we just say to string here and we run it, it will pass us an error. The error is saying what? It cannot concatenate string and integer, right? It can only concatenate string to string. So it means that one of it now is seen as string. So we have to change the other one to a string. So we say to string. So when we do this plus now you see that we have 2 and 203, which is these two, the months that we have and the year. But what we actually want is the month that we have and the year to be, how would I call it, to be separated by something. So what we would say is, we would also have another string here, let's say a dash, and then we put another plus here. So when we run this now we are able to see that we have what's it called, a month dash year. So the first aspect of what we have is the month. So we see this is the month, month, and the other aspect of what we have is the year. Now this is a string, and we can perform we can create a new column from it. So let's just call this sales data, and then I want to call this column, sorry, I want to call this column month, year, string, something like that, right? So that if I call my sales data now, I can have, okay, sales data dot head. So I'm able to see what is inside. So when I run this now, I can now see that I have a column called month, year, string, right? Which is like what I have here. But here, if we look at if we compare what we now have here, we can see which of them is better in terms of how it looks, like the data that we have. So we see this comes in year date form. This also comes in month year form, but this is much more understandable from writing 2003-02 compared to just writing 203. But they both solve the same problem. It's just the solution that they've given are quite different. So from here, we are able to see that we can concatenate two columns from inside one table together. But for us to only do that, we must make sure that the columns are of string data type. For us to now see what we've done so far, and from the info part, so let's see sales data dot info. when we run it, we would see now that the string that we add in our what's it called, our concatenation here, we can see now that it comes in as an object. And as I previously explained, that the object data type that we have here is just string, a combination of strings basically, which is exactly what we have and what we can see here, a combination of both letters and numbers. So now let's now go to analysis, and then I will then show us how the concat function in pandas works. Now, concat and concatenate, they are the same thing, but of different functions. So let me explain what I've just said so that we don't get lost. So PD, pandas has a concat function, right? Now, this concat function, what it does is that it joins two, what's it called? It joins two objects, either a data frame or series, depending on what you have, together. Now we'll see here that it joins basically string. By default, it's an outer join, but we can also state the join that we want. And then we need to state certain things, certain parameters, what it should join, and the keys that it should join on. So we can do that. Now, there is also the concatenate function. Let me quickly import. So let me go to the top and import numpy. So so there is also the concatenate function, which does the same thing, but this time around it is inside the numpy functionality. So we can see here concatenate. And what does concatenate does? Concatenate also joins what's it called? Joins things together, just like concat. But for numpy's concatenate, what it does is it joins arrays together. Why for what's it called, pandas concat function, it joins anything, literally anything together. So but these are the two things that we have. So we do not we are able to understand what they do and how they are being used. So let's go to our analysis aspect now and talk about what we have. So now we showed ourselves how we can create how would I call it, how we can group by each column for a particular data that we are working with. Sorry, I would want to insert above so that I do what I want to do before I continue. So we showed ourselves yesterday how we are able to group by columns, and so we talked about grouping by the order date, and then we mentioned the aggregation function that comes with it, depending on what we want. So we want to see the, let's say, sum of says the period does not support. Okay, yes. Now because we've created certain columns like the month year column here, and it does not support aggregation function like sum and all of that, we are having an issue. Now, how are we going to solve this? Now, what we have to do is first of all, we need to know which column do we actually want to work with from the group by function that we want to use. So I know I want to group by my order date, but if I want to say, let me say I want to pick the total orders per day, right? So I know I am picking total order per day. Now per day with respect to my order date. Now, the total order, for me to get the total order, I am going to see that from my order number, right? Which is a number in its own form. And if I want to do this, it would be best for me to use the count function, because that way I am able to count the number of orders that I have. If I want to take the total order in terms of amount, so that would be the total order amount in terms of what I sell. So I would say, okay, let me say, yeah. So I would say I would use the, what's it called, the sales column, because the sales column there talks about the amount the customer pays. Now, in doing this, if I would use the sales column, what I would be talking, or what the aggregation function I would be using would be my sum. But if I would be taking my total order, what I'll be using would be a count. So we need to note the difference. So if I come here and I say I want to take the total order of what I have, so I would say dot count. Now, dot count, which column am I speaking to? I am speaking to my order date. Sorry, my order number column. So when I run this now, I am able to see the total number of orders that I have per day. So I see January 6th, I have 4 orders and all of that. Now, if I want to do that for my total order value or total order amount, depending on what we want to do, so we call amount per day, we would say sales data dot group by, and I'm grouping by my order date. Now, what I want to do here is a sum, because I am adding up all of the columns that all of the records I have in my column. Which column am I speaking to? Sales. So when I run this now, what does it say? It says period does not support sum operation. So let's come back here again. Already states the column I want to speak to. So why are you disturbing me? Now, for me to do this, I can restructure where I put my sales column. So I can come here and put my sales column here, and I run this. Now, when I do this now, I've been able to, how would I call it? I've been able to sum all of this together. Now, let me show us what is actually going on here, so that we see and understand why what I've done works both ways. So let me remove my sum, for instance, and I call this. Now, if we do this here, we see that what happens is, so what happens here is that my group by function, it creates a group by on my order date, and it takes the sales column also, but it doesn't show anything because there is no aggregation function attached to it. So when I do a sum, which is an aggregation function, it would then work. Now, what happens if I want to pick multiple columns? So I say I want to have, let's say I want to have the total order quantity, right? I want to have total order quantity, which if I look at my data is also a sum column, because I need to sum all of these together to have the number of orders I have. So my order quantity ordered, right? So I want to have total order quantity and sales and total amount or order value. I want to have this together. How do I do this? And this is per day also. So what I would do is I would create a multi-dimensional array format here, and I would put each of the columns that I want to create their that I need in my in quotes. So each of them would be in my square bracket. Then what I would do what I would do is that I would then run this. Now, when I do this, I have two columns, right? I have my sales column and my quantity ordered column, all of which are grouped by the order date. Now, all right, so I was talking about order date and our quantity ordered and sales. Now we are able to see that we can have multiple columns here, right? And we are able to have each of them grouped by the order date. Now we have 252 rows here, the same columns that we are talking to order date. Now, when we look at what we have for our total number of orders per day, we have it as we have the order date also grouped by. Now, what if I want to have my total orders, my sales, and my quantity ordered? I want to have all of them in the same table. How am I going to do that? Now, what I will do is I'm going to give this a name. So I'll call this daily order. Sorry, daily order equals to. So I'm going to daily order. Oops. .head. So let me just show this. So here I have I've created my daily order table, like it's a series here, which I'm going to be joining later on with my quantity and sales orders. So I have daily order here. Now I'm going to also come here and I want to create another variable. I'm going to call this daily, how do I call this? Daily sales, or let me say daily quantity sales, right? So daily quantity sales equals to this, and I can have my daily quantity sales. If I call it here, I have this. Now, the next thing I want to now do is I want to join. So I want to join daily order table, right? Daily order and daily quantity sales together. Now, for me to do this, how am I going to do it? So I'm going to say pd dot concat. Now, when I come to pd dot concat, how am I going to use it? So let's go through our guide. So it says we use it to concatenate pandas objects along a particular axis. So along a particular axis could mean along a row or along a particular column, depending on what we want to do. So here, the column we are using is the order date, right? Because that's what they will have. So we are going to list our what's it called? We are going to list our either data frame or series. So our iterable, we are going to list it. Then we are going to state the axis we are working with. 0 by default means row, 1 means column. So this is one of the things we should take note. So by default, if you look at axis, it says 0, which is the index, 1, which is the column. So by default, it is 0. Now, the next thing we do is we want to join. Are we doing an inner join, an outer join? By default, it is an outer join. What does inner join mean and what does outer join mean? Inner join means that the records that are common to both sides, just like we have in a Venn diagram, and they say what is the intercept of A and B. It means what is common between A and B. So that is basically inner join. But in outer join, it is basically looking at everything as a whole. What is common to A and B, everything together, join them together for me. And when there is a colon that is in A and not in B, what it does is it is going to pass null value to that certain colon on the colon that is not available. But in inner join, it would remove such colons. So the next thing we do here, talk about here, is ignore index. Ignore index basically mean that once you are done joining, remove the index of what you've joined. By default, it is false. But sometimes we could want to do that depending on what we have. So we also have key, which is how do I call it, a multiple level, which passes a tuple also. Now let's go into how we use it. So let's say we have two series. We have series A and B. How do we use it? So when we say pd.concat a s1 s2, which is a series of this, what it does is it joins everything together, right? Now you can see, regardless of the index, it joins everything together, because by default the join type is outer. Now when we then say ignore index, what does it do? It removes the index and then puts in a new index to it. Now if we then say that it should join A and B, S1 and S2 together on the keys inside S1 and S2, we will then see that it's going to list each of them for us, and it is going to, how would I call it? It is then going to list the items inside each of the lists, each of the series that we have. Now, so we are talking so much. Let's now go inside and see how we actually use this. So I have my series, which are daily orders. So I'm going to put it in a quote. So I have, sorry, daily orders, and I have daily quantity sales. Now when I run this, we would see now that it joins all of this together, right? But it says, oh, this one does not have sale. We put null there. So when we look at the rows, it says 504. It means that all of the records that we previously had, it just joined them together. But this is not what it is supposed to bring, because we expect that the records for what's it called? So we expect that the records for January 6, 2003, it shows everything on the same line, right? So now, how then do we visualize this better? Now, the next thing we will do is let me show us what this is doing. So let me say sort index. So yes, this is what I'm explaining. Now we see here now that our record January 6, the same record, but no value is missing here and no value is missing here. Meanwhile, what it is supposed to do, it is supposed to merge these two together for us. So what we now need to do is we need to state what we are joining on. So we say our join is so we say first our axis. Like we said, by default the axis is 0, so we change our axis to 1. So when we run this now, we now see that we have the same, all records on the same line. Why? Don't forget, previously I said that 0 means row, and 1 means colon. Now, the index we are joining on is on the colon because we are joining on other dates, which is a colon. Are we together? And this way, now we are able to, what's it called? We are able to have our records all together as compared to when it joins, it joins based on rows. Do we get it? So we are seeing, now we can see how we have the same record, all of them concatenated into one table, right? And we can easily use this in our analysis. So let me just show us some of the things we can do with this analysis that we have here. So let me call this, let's say, daily, let me just say daily record, or let me say daily sales record, something like that. Daily underscore sales underscore record. So when we do this now, okay, oops. So we have this. Now, when we want to perform analysis, we can easily use things like this for in our table. So I'm going to use plotly, because if I should use pandas to plot this, we would have some difficulties. So let me show us what I mean. So if I say plot kind equals bar, when I do this, for instance, when I do this, for instance, we would see how our data would come in, and we might not really enjoy the visual because some will be very small, especially for these numbers, while some will be very large, things like sales and all of that. So, yeah, you see what I'm saying? Now we have the order dates, the sales, and the quantity order. But in fact, we can't even see anything. Just the sales is all what we can see. And it is so much, how do I call it, scattered, especially for the dates. So I would not want to use this. So I would use my plotly. So I would say px.bar, and in my bar, what am I just supposed to mention? My daily sales record. So when I do this and I say should plot this, let's see how it is going to plot it for us and see the difference in how it would be. When we do this, our data too would also look so much, how would I call it, so much unbalanced, because we would have some huge values. Yes, some huge values just showing. So we can see here we have our order dates and what it is showing, but we cannot see our order number, and we can only see our sales. We can't see our order number and our quantity order. But what we can do is we can then zoom in. So when we zoom in, you see that we can barely see the values also, because it is so huge based on the numbers. So doing things like this is not advisable, because you would be missing the importance of what you actually have. So let's now go deeper. So we can basically just say our x is order dates. So we can just say order dates, and our y is let's say y equals order number. So when what's happening here? So it says value x is not the same. Okay. Yeah, the reason why he complained about the x was because our x is already our index. So, and it does not see that from what we have here. So automatically it says it here, so we don't really have to state the x. So we stated our y here. Now we can now see better, and then we can zoom in with this and we see each of the values. We talked about so we talked about formatting our visuals also yesterday. Some of the things we can do, either changing colors or adding values to what we have, depending on the chart that we also have. And we mentioned all of this, so how we can change colors, how we can also set
Hello, sir.
let's yeah
Hello, sir. Yes, in this bar chart, sir.
yes
In this bar chart, sir, you stated only the y-axis without the x-axis.
yes
Does it mean that it will automatically recognize or choose its own x-axis by itself?
So the data that we have, the reason why it automatically throws our other date as the x-axis is because our other date is our index here.
Okay.
Do we get it? So automatically it picks the other date as the x-axis. But assuming we want to pick another column as our x-axis, then we would have to state our x-axis. So for instance, let's say we want to work with sales data now. So let me show us how this works. So let's say we are using sales data for our visual. So say px.bar, and we say sales data. Then we say our x-axis is equals to order date. This is because in our sales data, our order date is what's it called? Is not our x-axis, but in our daily sales record, our order date is our x-axis. So if I run this, so you see how it is going to. So when I run this now, okay, so it says again, x is not the same colon in data frame. So order dates. Oh, I did not spell order date very well. So when I run this now, we would see now that it plots basically it for us using order date colon now, and it has all of the other numbers that we have. Now this is where we would now see the challenge with using other numbers directly from our plot, because if you look at the
Sir,
values that we have here, yes,
hello, sir. I think we are visualizing that table on its own, and I expected that that chart should be a combo chart. Once we are having one index and two other columns.
oh yeah, this column, this visual, right?
Yes, sir. I expect it to
Yes,
be a combo chart.
exactly. Yeah, I'm still going to come to that. I explained
Okay.
previously the other time why we should not like just plot everything at the same time, and why we should just specifically select depending on what we want. Then I'm still going to talk about how we can use combo chart and all of that. I'm coming to that.
Okay.
So what I'm explaining now is doing direct visual from the data without performing analysis. We would see here that what we have in terms of the order number, the maximum order number that we had is 40. No, is it 40? If you look at here, it's 38, which is the total number of orders in a particular day. That is November 14. But if you look at our data here, we have order number to be a lot bigger, like getting to 400,000, which is wrong. So we would see the necessity of performing analysis even before we begin to visualize. But I just only did this so that we are able to see how we can state our rows and columns when we have multiple records like this. So I'm going to delete this because we don't need this. Yes, so coming to what you've mentioned, to visualize a record like this all together. For instance, we want to see the days that we have orders, the orders we have, the total sales, and the quantity order. Depending on how we want to visualize it, we can have something called a combo chart. And what is a combo chart? A combo chart is a dual chart, so where you have two different charts in one chart. So let me come here and show us what a combo chart is. So we understand that in a combo chart we have more than what's it called, more than one visual in it. So it means we can have a bar chart and a line chart in our charts all together. So we are able to see better how the visual also works. We can even have three visuals depending on how the data we have. It's just that one of them could be a bar chart with, how do I call it, with clustered a clustered bar chart and a line chart. So how do we implement such here? If we come to, so let me first come to plots. Okay, yeah, I think we talked about plots. Yes, good. So if you look at pandas plot function, we would see that we cannot perform such analysis or such visuals with pandas plot function. So, but if we come to our plotly, so we say px dot, we can see we have, there is a no, there is a multiple, what's this guy called? No, not line 3D. I think is wait, I've forgotten this function. 1 minute, let me check. Plotly, yeah, yes. Yeah, so we have it as no, this is line. Okay, so for us to use this, we would have to basically state each of them. So we'd create two functions. We'd create a function for bar chart, and we'd create a function for the line chart also, and then we can then use it. So we'd say that, oh god, this is, know you. So apart from this, we should be able to, there's a way to do this. Oh, we have to use Golden. Okay, we have to use Golden. Okay, so Plotly has this function called state there. Okay, so we create a figure, put the line first. I'm coming, 1 minute. Okay, so what we do is we first have a line chart, and in our line chart we would state the one we want to use for line. So we would say we want to use what's our line? We want to use sales as our line. So we'll say daily, daily sales records, and our y-axis is sales. So when we run this, we see line. Now we are going to call this let's say figure, and then with in our figure we then create a new a bar chart inside. So we'd say figure.add bar. Click yes. So after we've done this, we then say create a figure, we put figure.add like, then we use this, yes. Add bar. So and then we say our table and our x-axis equals to what we want to use for our bar. So let's use quantity order for our bar. Say figure.show. What is the reason why it did not work? So it says alignment property is a string and must be set to string alignment property group. Which of them is that? There is nothing like alignment property here. It's supposed to work. Okay, go. Let's referencing this. So let me say order number. Still the same thing. I think something is wrong here, so let's check. Let's check what is wrong. The number that will be converted to a string, but we don't have a string here, so we I don't know why our work is not working. I don't know why this is not working. Well, I don't know why this is not working. It's supposed to work. It's supposed to have just this. Let me just use. Okay, another method we can use is we can use our what's it called? We can use another library called the plotly graph objects. So what we'll do is we'd have to import this. So we'll import plotly graph objects. I don't want our time to go far. So we import plotly graph objects, and we would have to create each of the charts as a figure. Then would then create a figure, how would I call it, like a combination of the figures. So what we'd do is we'd say, so let me go to the top. Let me go and add this at the top and run it. So we have our go function now. So from the go function, we can then create a figure. So we'd say fig equals to go dot. So the go dot create a figure, and then we now create a, how do I call it? We now use our figure to create each of the chart that we have. So we say figure dot so we say figure dot add trace. So what does figure dot add trace? What does it do? What it does is it adds a trace to a figure, and then we can set our row and column inside it, so we can use that to create what we want. So we use the figure function to then create the chart that we want to use inside. So inside it, we then say go dot the chart that we want to use, bar. Now, how then do we use our bar function? What we need to do is we need to state our x-axis and our y-axis. So we are using this old table from what is here. So let's see what is inside our figure. So when we run this, so it says module object not callable. Which object is that? Okay, something is wrong here. Something is wrong here. What is this? Let's go back again to our guides. Okay, we used small letter instead of capital letter. Another wala. So it says first argument for bar. Are we following?
We are following, sir.
Okay, yes. So we are basically trying to use this guide from Plotly to build our combo charts, because there is no default combo chart function, so we have to build it ourselves. So now we have to check what exactly is the problem. Okay, so let's say dots here, and this should be index. Okay, it says the first argument of bar constructor must be a dictionary or an instance of a bar chart. Aha. So it means that for us to use this function, we have to create an instance of a bar chart. So let's go inside and see what we need or how to create it. Okay, go. So there's no guides. So we have an argument, a property constructor. Okay. So we have x axis, y. Now we cannot have u. Okay, so for us to do this now, we have to create another constant. Okay, let's try something here. Let's use this example that we have here first and see. So when we run this, okay, so now if we look at this has the same x-axis for this and this. So it means that we want to create our x. Okay, so let's create our x and say our x is our daily sales record, and our y is daily sales record and a sales column. Now we have to state the same thing for our bar, and this time our sales will change this to sorry, 1 minute. I made a mistake. Insert above. So we come here, and now we want to change each of what we have. So our x is our data, oh sorry, daily sales. So here we have okay. So here we are able to see two things. Our sales is not selling. Our visual is not visualizing very, very well. Okay, let's do something. Let's remove this and run this. Okay, we have only this, but where is this coming from? This is our x-axis coming from. Okay, okay, we got it now. So our x equals to our index. So when we do this, now we see that we have like a combo chart that is not good in terms of its visual, because our charts and our line charts are not, how would I call it, are very, very far from each other. So we have a chart here showing the number of orders that we have, and then we also have the quantity of orders that we have. Then we also have another chart that is showing like the line, but they are not visible because they are far from each other in terms of values. So it would not be good in situations like this to have two charts that are not aligned. But let's assume that I change this, our line chart, to be let's say our order number, the total number of orders that we have, and I run this. Now we'll be able to see that our, what's it called, our orders like is visible within our charts, although it is still small, but it is still visible as compared to what was what's it called, what was buildable before. But one of the things that we can easily do in situations like this is we can visualize them separately so that we can see each of them better. So yeah, so let's call this plotting a okay. So we also looked at different things yesterday, and we showed ourselves the differences in the visualization libraries that we have and how we can easily use them. And so from our discussion yesterday, we were able to show ourselves that it is better to use Plotly whenever we are visualizing because of the what's it called? Because of the features that it has. And we also looked at the certain different visualization formatting and charts that we could also have. So we looked at pie charts yesterday and how we can use it. Oops, where's our visualization for? Okay, yeah, we looked at pie charts and how we can use it. Then I talked about how we can easily use what's this called the pie chart, and so that we do not lose um, data and get what's it called and get our data misinterpreted. So I showed us how, for instance, Plotly handles the different columns and the values it gives them. So we take, for instance, if we look at the quantity orders and the status, we would see that the percentage of records, the percentage of shipped products or orders is 23.92.3. But when we look at other columns like sales and order number, we see that the values are different. This is because in terms of quantity orders, what's the way what's it called? The way Python, the way Plotly handles each of the value columns is that it carries out a summative operation. So it adds all of the values that it gets together, and then it does the percentage. That is why we have a situation like this. So how then are we able to visualize what we have actually done so far in the correct form using Plotly? Now, what we should do is rather we should have what's it called? We should have we should have performed our what am I saying? We should have performed our analysis. So what we should have is, let's say, I think we created an analysis for status before. Okay, let's just do it again. So let's go back to our sales data. So we say our sales data dot group by, right? So we are grouping by status now. So, oops, we are grouping by status. I'm supposed to do this first. I'm supposed to do this analysis first. So I'll call this status analysis. By 4 o'clock, we are going to end our class, so we do not bore ourselves so much. So we have sales data dot group by. So we are grouping by status, and we are performing. We want to pick which column. We want to pick, let's say, sales, or we should even pick the three itself. We should have, yeah, let's pick the three and see. We should have sales quantity order, quantity order, and order number. So dot sum, because we want to add everything together. Now when we do a sum here, we can now see that they have different things. So let's just call this statuses, right? So we can say, now when we come to px and we say dot pi, we want to use statuses table, and we want our value to be let's say sales. So when we run this now, it says, oops, sorry. So when we run this now, it says this. Now here, now we are able to see the actual values and how they go along with what we have here. So if we come to shift here, we see now that shift is 9,291,000 in terms of total sales. But when we come to sales here, for instance, we can now see we have 9,291,000, which shows us that what Plotly actually does is a summative operation, like we previously mentioned. So this way also, when we've done the analysis, we are able to specifically state what we want. Also, if we look at here, if we look at what we have here, for instance, so let's say we have we do a count operation instead of a sum operation now. So let's just say here I call this status count, and we want to see how it is done in Plotly. Now we see all of these have the same value, so we really do not need all of the columns, so we can just pick one of the columns. So let's pick quantity orders. So now that we have this, right, we can easily just say px.py and give me status counts. So when I do this now, you see it doesn't give me anything because there is no, how do I call it? There is no column stated in terms of for value. Now, how do I then call a column? What I would do is I would just say, okay, how do I do this? So I would say dots. If I come here, I say values. So let's see what we have. So I have values equals to the values, and I have okay, I have status counts here. So when I run this now, I have this. Now where do I get my, so this is status count analysis. Now from what we've done so far, we are able to see that we can visualizing status counts. We can perform an analysis whereby we are looking at not the sum as Plotly would naturally perform the operation, but in fact as a count, and we would need to leverage the dot values the dot values function inside the series that we have. So we should also try to note that there is an index and there is the values. Also, we would see that by default in all of what we've done previously, we always create a name column to state what name are we calling. But if we look at what we've done in our series here, we would see that automatically our name is order number, which it had created. Wow. Which it had created for us here. And which is then what we don't need, but we'll just call the values here. So we can try as much as possible to play around with the count operation also, which is different from the sum. We can also perform other analysis. So for instance, we want to do a bar chart, but this time around it's going to be an horizontal bar chart. So we can do px dot bar. There is called H bar here. Where are you? Where are you? Let me see if it's okay. Status. Oh no, this is not what we want to do. Px dot incoming status count dot bar dot plot. Sorry. Okay, yeah, I can do this here. I don't know why this guy is not coming. So we can perform a horizontal bar, and we can, yeah. So oops. Enter space. So
Listen, it seems this your bar is not correct. This is intentional.
this bar H, right?
Yes, sir.
It's called bar horizontal. So this is what I was talking about. So it's called bar horizontal. So it's different from bar. So if I run, let's say, bar, we can see the difference. So this goes like horizontal. This goes like vertical form. This goes in on x-axis. So what it does basically is it just changes our x-axis. Now, this is always useful when you have values that are always like are very wide and the x-axis are not much, so that you are able to see better and the values will not just be so long like in terms of height, but you are leveraging your width now. Do we get that? So there is a, this is plotting, so bar horizontal bar, horizontal bar charts using pandas plots. So there is a way to plot this in Plotly. I don't know why I am. Oh. Inside here we have how come I have forgotten where to do? Let me just go and look for it inside Plotly. Horizontal. Okay, orientation. Yeah, orientation is what I was supposed to check. So just to how come I did not see orientation? Where's orientation here? Okay, this is it. So we'll have our status counts, and then we can just say orientation equals to H. Yes. So now we can see that we can plot this. So we can do plotting horizontal bar charts with what's it called, with Plotly. Yes. And we can also add other things here. So let's format our, so we can do our what other thing can we do? We can do our color discrete, right? So we can just give it a color. So let's give it green. So we can also add values. So we have data. Am I right? Is it data or?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Where exactly do we use color discrete sequence and just only color?
So color discrete sequence is used in Plotly to change colors. Why color works with pandas plots. So
Okay.
uh, so color works here. Why pandas Plotly uses color discrete sequence. I want to remember one of the things we did also yesterday. Ah, some of our charts did not plot after we've run it. Some of our plots did not plot. I'm not okay. So I want to remember this thing again. Oh. Present text. Did we do this? Okay. Come on. Yeah, another thing we can also do is we can also do a stacked bar. Yeah, we can also do a stacked bar. So for stacked bar, let me look at one of the columns we can easily use for stacked bar. Okay, let's say we have can't remember which of the columns should we use for stacked bar. Okay, yes. Let's say we have our group by function. So I want to copy one of the group by functions we used yesterday for month year. Okay, yes, let's just do that month year. So that will be the last one we'll do. So we have sales data, and we have dot group by. So we want to group by month year. So we want to pick our want to pick status. We want to pick sales. Want to pick status, want to pick sales. We want to also pick which other column. Okay, let's just pick these two. Yes, and then we want to say dot sum. Sorry, what happened? Oh, okay. So this is doing a ship thing for us. Now, this is not supposed to be what we should have. So let's, oh, I was supposed to group by status here. So we have okay, yes. So we have this. We have for each of the months, we are able to see the plot for them. So let's call this monthly order status and sales, right? So let's just call this sales status, sales underscore status. So now what we want to do here is we want to, so when we run this, we have all of this. Now for each day, we can see some days have cancelled order and shipped order. Now, some days will also have yeah, fully shipped and all of that. Now, let's now assume we want to plot this. When we do just status, sorry, sales status, when we do sales status dot plot, and we say, let's say kind equals bar, and we run this, we would see that we have just all of the values for sales, but we are not able to really see. We see some of them shipped, some of them cancelled, some of them shipped, and all of that. We are not able to see the, how do I call it, the differences very, very well. So what we can do is we can create a start form where everything will be together. So here we say start. So we can just come here and say start equals to 2. And so when we run this now, we should have, how's this thing not working now? Supposed to, okay, so we can, this is not showing very well, but it's supposed to start them. Now if we go to Plotly and perform a bar chart on sales status, oops, something is wrong. I think I did not do this right. So we have this. Okay, let's do, I'm sorry, I want to change this to visualize it very well. I think something is wrong in the visual. So let's do a count here, and let's do, yeah, okay, yes, we have this now. So we do status dot plot dot count equals bar. So each of them, okay, so now we can have, so it's the same way. So we have px dot bar, then our sales status, and our what are we doing here? Our y-axis. So our y-axis is going to be y equals to sales status dot values. Says x is not supported. Okay, because we have multiple x. Okay, so we say our x equals to, because we have multiple x, sales status and status. Montier is not an index. What are you saying now? Please test me this guy. So this Montier is now an index, and sales dot unique. Names. Okay, so let's check. Do we have names? There is no names here. Okay, it has to be a data frame. That's our challenge. Okay, that's the problem that we have. What we are pushing is a series, so it's not going to work. So what we are pushing is a series. It's not going to work. So if we say, for instance, status count now, it will work because this is a data frame. The status count is a data frame, so it will work. Okay. So let's come back here and solve this problem. Sum. And so here we have sales, we have quantity orders. Okay, now we have this, so we can easily state what we want. So px dot sales status 403. We'll end the class now, so we'll state our y equals to sales. Exercise 2. Okay, the multi-index is not supported. That is why. That is why. Okay. Multi-index is not supported. Okay. All right. So this is where we would stop. So I want us to go and practice it, basically just play around with what we have so far and see what you can gather from it. So for any question that we have, we can just you can buzz me or ask on the group so that we are together.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Um, I want to ask for something like, in all this thing you've taught us so far in Python, if you can just come up with something like a task,
Yes.
series of questions for us to do some things and submit to you personally, then to to see the level of, because normally as a teacher it would be okay for you to see the progress that your students are making. So I'm just suggesting, because me, I like that kind of thing personally. If you can just come up with series of questions, tasks that we can solve, then we'll submit to you for you to look at our performance and everything you've taught us. And I also know that I've been eating you up so many times when I'm practicing, and you have been responding. So I want to say thank you for that. Thank you for always responding whenever we are in trouble. Because me, I'll still have to go back to all these videos, watch it, then practice. That was the reason I was eating you up, asking you to know, okay, whether I'm on the line or so. So that's just what I want to say. Please, if you can consider that. I'm also saying very big thank you for your effort, for everything you've done so far. Thank you so much.
All right, yeah. Yeah, thank you very much for mentioning the tax. Yeah, so I've been also thinking sincerely of which of the tax should I give you. I have like various assessments here, like data sets that I could say you should play around with. So I'm still thinking, like, you can see my screen, right?
Yes,
Can you see my
yes,
screen? Yeah. So I've been thinking which
yes.
of them I could give you to like just go and play around with. Maybe I would once I finalize with what I want to give you, I could come up with some questions around it. Hopefully before Wednesday, I should be able to come up with something that would be able to guide you and will be tax worthy for you to work on. Maybe it could be this marketing data, because it also has a data dictionary that can easily guide you on what each of the columns are, and you can perform some analytics with it with Python. I think I could give you this to work on.
Okay, sir. We'll
So
be glad to have that. Thank you so much,
yeah,
sir.
yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, yeah. All right, so I'm going to share the assessment with us so we can play around with it, try to do it and see what you can come up with from it using what we've learned so far. So I would share this marketing data as a task for us to do, because the size of the file is also not very large, so it wouldn't disturb us. Okay, so
All
we'll
right,
end our
sir.
class here for today. So this is where would end. So any question we have, we can surely ask on the group. Um, that's something we can always do. Then we can also share among ourselves what we've learned, and if you are facing any challenge, please ask questions. Please always ask questions. All right. Thank you very much for joining the class. Do have a
Thank you so much,
wonderful
sir.
weekend.
And you too.
All right, sir.
All right. Bye.
Bye.